Well, it's a beautiful film that also demands some silence afterwards, but I think we have to use this opportunity to talk as much as we can. So, as I said before, Réka Szabó is a choreographer, and she acts both as both capacities in this film, filmmaker and choreographer. As she mentioned, she studied mathematics, informatics, she got interested in contemporary dance, and she directs the theater dance company The Symptoms in Budapest. This is her first feature-length documentary, which already got lots of awards from the critics, from the audience, so it means that it's a film that works for different publics and touches us in a similar way. Well, first, to begin with this talk, I would like to speak a bit about the limits of the verbal language. The film begins like with an affectionate gesture of somebody touching Eva's hair. Your relationship, the first time that we see, it's also a gesture. You are touching her. The words that are used denote proximity and closeness, but it's really the gesture that moves this film, the body contact. And well, this idea would only grow when the performance is developing, right? So if we consider the experiences of trauma, of pain, of loss as incommensurable experiences, meaning that we cannot seize them or touch them or measure them, explain them into words, then we come with the idea and we have to accept that the language that we have is incomplete. I would like to think about an Indian anthropologist, Veena Das, who has widely studied suffering and violence and pain. And she says in one of her essays that the language for the inexpressibility of pain is always falling short of our need of plenitude. And this is why we have this sense of disappointment towards the language that is given to us because it's incomplete. So I would like to start this conversation talking about that and the limits of words and how you work with that in your work more as a choreographer than a filmmaker, really. Yeah, I mean, where to start from? Actually, when I started this whole rehearsal process, my question was that how much can we experience from each other? Emese and Éva, because I knew a lot about Éva's life, and not so much actually about her physicality, her body. But the basic idea was that create a situation where they can discover each other. So I brought them also physical and exercises or tasks, and also topics for discussions, and they how much they can understand each other, how much they can feel each other. Is it possible to understand Éva's trauma for us, for me, for example, or for Emese? But also the question that could Éva understand anything from Emese? And it was very interesting to watch this process, because actually I think because it was also my question that can we learn from the past or not? Can we should experience all the time to avoid to act in another way, or we always go to the same street because we cannot learn from the past? And actually I can say that I think what we can
say to each other. So words not enough. We cannot learn, I think. That's my sad answer. But there is something more general, and this is what happened between Emese and Éva. I think that in another way they could really feel each other, and they could really meet. But this meeting was not in the field of the words, actually. And for me, just to give an example, that for sure you remember the scene, which I don't like so much in the movie, because this is actually one of my strongest moments from the rehearsal process, when I gave the task to Éva that watch Emese dance as if Emese were someone who she lost, and she was watching Emese like as she would be her little sister. And to sit there in the rehearsal room and watching Emese's dance with Éva's eye, for me it was actually almost the biggest pain, or how to say that I was the closest to understand from the pain of Éva, I think, while watching Emese. Because when you are just talking, then the information comes from somehow through your brain, and when you watch this dance, that it's her lost sister, then the pain is very direct to me. And of course we are different, because I love to see bodies, and I love to read from the body, from the movements, from little gestures. So of course it's maybe not for everyone. I don't know if I said anything to your question.
Yes, you said. And to continue with this, I would like to think about this idea of stop being like an individual to become a collective, which is something that emerges from your film. You just said this phrase, which I pointed out. Éva says towards the end of the film, how much can you experience through another human being, which is also the basis of documentary cinema and what joined us tonight, I think. So it's fascinating how Emese keeps discovering the clues that Éva gives her. This symphony that they have is remarkable, like if two bodies eventually become one, and this is something that, although your film doesn't have so many resources or many artificial it's mostly a fluid, organic film, but you use in a very clever way the dissolves to show us this connection, the way the characters are becoming the same and merging. So I was wondering when I was watching your film if you think that memory is something that somehow is engraved like in our DNA and can be physically transmitted, as if somehow Emese is now a depository of Éva's trauma, and this is something that eventually can come just towards all this experience, and that is actually ours as well now in a sense.
It's a pity that Emese is not here. You could ask this question from her. Yes, for sure that all the time and the experience we shared together with Éva, it's something that it's in your body already, I think, in Emese's body. And especially also because I wanted to go to close Éva's trauma through the body, in a way, the body memory. How is it feel? So also the whole life, when I started to get close to the lives, I always tried to close on it through the body memory. I don't know if you understand this. So, what kind of feeling it is being 18, and what is the sensations standing there naked, naked Appel in Auschwitz, or so we went always through this very female body experiences, and I think that's why also Emese took a lot from it. So I think
well, you just mentioned about the female experience, which is so present in your film, and this female vulnerability, which is like this potentiality of being affected. Of course, it's inherent to all humans, but in this particular film, it's really about the woman, and she has a very big conscience about being a woman first, and that's how she defines, and she points out throughout the film, because the implications for the female body are different. The way we see our hair, our body, our menstrual periods, our sexual integrity in these situations is, I think, it's much different. So throughout your film, the sense of sisterhood, of sorority, also emerges, and I think it's really beautiful. So I would like to, if you could talk a little bit about this experience of three women creating together for such a long period, and you are still touring with a performance. I would like just to hear you comment more about this process for you.
Yeah, I was 44 when I started to create this performance, after or in the middle of a midlife crisis, with lots of thoughts about getting old, and it was also in a way in the center that how is it possible that Eva is so joyful, and Eva can enjoy the moments of life, and yeah, so actually, sorry, I can't, I don't know what I'm talking about, sorry. Because actually the problem is that I can't really take with this, that is female process, because actually, of course, it is a female process, but it was not, I didn't want to do a female process. There was Eva, I wanted to show Eva to everyone, and that was clear that I would like to do a dialogue with a young woman dancer with her, because I'm interested in not a monodrama, but how to make a dialogue with a young person. And then it was clear that Emese can in a way replace or embodies Eva's younger sister or younger herself, and that's why it was clear that it's a female dancer. I am female, okay. And I knew that I want to have a female DOP, camera woman. I would like to have a camera woman and not a man, because I knew that I want to go close to the skin, and I didn't want to have a male eye on it. So of course it's female, but in a way the original plan was somehow just to go close to a person. And then, because Eva is such a woman, being 90, she's still such a woman, that's why this female energy comes through so strongly through the whole film, but it was not a plan.
Something that is really striking about your film is the plurality of the artistic form. It's a performance, it's cinema, it's memoir. So it's really a film that gathers so many aspects of art and of life. And I would like you to elaborate a bit about all these multiple registers of your film. Maybe for this we need to know in advance also if the performance and the film started at the same time, or if cinema entered through a back door in this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually before we started the rehearsal process, 1 month before, it just came into my mind, I don't know what will happen, but I have to film this, I have to shoot. And we didn't have any relationship to the film area, we didn't have any financial support, but then I decided to put the money of my company actually to be able to start shooting the rehearsal process. So we started with the rehearsal process, shooting the film, but I didn't really know what will happen or how it will be a film. And actually when I do theater, it's also that I'm not interested in genres, műfajok.
Genres.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. I'm interested in to express what I want and to go close to the thing I want. And if I can go close through the body, then it's the body, or words, or music, or just laughing, or just watching, I don't know. So any kind of tools, how we can express, how we can reach. Yeah.
And my first thought when it was over, I said to my friend, what an incredibly brave woman you are that you started this, because it was obvious from the beginning you didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but something had to happen. And you just dived into that.
Thanks. So if you didn't hear the lady, and also because we are recording, the lady is praising Réka for her being brave and courageous with this film. And yes, actually, though it's of course a very painful subject, and we are going through the most traumatic life experience, it is also a very luminous film where some light, some courage, patience emerges off the screen. A film full of embraces, of smiles, of gestures that come from this encounter between two women. So, and you see them, because we see you, how you see them also with a surprise, with admiration. So I would also like to know more about how was the experience of working and with them and becoming a catalyst of such an encounter. How much would you interfere? How was, as a director, a filmmaker, how much you would let improvisation go? And then also you have, or maybe you can talk about this first, but also about the construction of the film already in the moment of editing. It has like 2 lines, the performance, but also some moments when Eva is just speaking in a close shot, talking about her past. So there are 2 styles that merge in the film. So if you can also explain us when you found that this was important and how you found that balance. Well, this is supposed to be a different style of conversation. It's not really a Q&A, but I know that you have so many questions, so we will give the last 10 minutes for that.
Well,
so it's different.
You're talking too much, in my opinion.
All right.
I don't mind I'm saying that.
I don't.
It's my opinion, but I think...
Thanks for your opinion. I will take it in consideration. So,
Well, I have a question, if I may.
Okay, if maybe Réka can talk a little bit, and then the lady, and then you.
But we can meet after in the buffet. I'm very happy to talk to you
So
all.
what was the question? Great.
Yeah, just quickly then yeah, what was the question?
About the two genders of the cinema of your film, like two styles that merge. If you can talk about the editing and how this process, where you connect.
Yeah, and also about the rehearsal period. Okay, so yeah, it was like it was tough actually to editing this film, because actually it was so rich. It was 90 hours rushes, and of course we played with it's not linear of how it happened, because we started the rehearsals in Eva's flat. So actually we started the discussions and the very basic trainings there for almost a month. And then, because she told in the beginning that, sorry, but I cannot really walk too much in the street, so I don't want to go anywhere, just come to my flat. But after, I don't know how many rehearsal, I suggested that, Eva, don't we go to the rehearsal room? And when we went there for the first time, she thought, okay, I will come here every day. She loved the space, she loved that she can move and so on. Actually the rushes were very rich, because it's all about life, you know. It's also about how to get old, all about sexuality, female things, also about Auschwitz and traumas, and also about Emese, who is actually not so much, there is not so much focus on her in the film. It's much more in the performance. I had to make decisions where are the main focus, where is the main focus, but what was my idea that I really stick to the movements, and because I think that, and I hope that in this film, the movements and the dance part, and actually the will, how much Eva will to do this whole thing, the huge strength in her. Actually, for me, it's a very strong connection with Auschwitz, because I think she wants to live forever. She wants to live instead of everybody she lost. And actually, I think, for me, to understand what is a trauma, I can understand this, for example, through the scene where Eva is talking about that the dead bodies were burned and what is the smell, and then she says, "I'm hungry," and I think this is because it's her. Auschwitz is in her, so it's her normal life in a way, that it's her everydays, and it can occur in every moment, from about everything she can come up with a topic, and with this topic, and yeah, and what I wanted, that I use this, that the movements in a way support the trauma, and the trauma supports this will that she wants to do this performance, and that's why it's like this.
So we will take a few questions from the audience. Though, as I said, the format of this talk is a bit different. So there is a lady who asked first, and then in the back, we will pass the mic so we can also keep the sound of these questions.
There's no question here.
Okay.
I just made a remark.
There was a lady.
I do have.
It's okay.
I found, I don't have any questions really, it's just things I want to say. The fact that Eva said that she has had all the drama and that she enjoys life so thoroughly is so different from what you hear from a lot of people who come out of the camps, that they have all these guilt feelings and feel they are not entitled to have a good life, and she does, and I find that incredibly brave and fantastic.
But she also has this guilty feeling.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, she does, of course. Just the concept, I mean the
Következtetés, azt mondod. A következtetés ugyanaz.
the consequences she grew from this is not the same.
I have to say, congratulations, beautiful film, very impressive. For me, it's a film about the Holocaust in a very different way. I've never seen anything like it. I have a question. The music during the rehearsals is very different from the music in the performance. Why is that?
Actually, you don't hear the music of the performance in the film. Because actually, at that point, we are not in the reality of the performance.
No, it isn't. It doesn't go, in fact, with the story of Eva. The music in the rehearsal, I mean. But you hear very different music in the rehearsal. I did. And the music in the final part, the performance, that's not the music that they're dancing on. It's very poetic music.
Yes, because
very different from the rehearsals.
Yes, because actually at that point of the film, I think we are not anymore in the reality of the performance. So I don't use the music of the performance where the performance is happening in the film.
Yeah.
Because actually I don't show you the performance actually in the film, and it's really just segments. You know, and we are in a very different atmosphere.
Yeah, the music is also not that important anymore. It's the story for
it's
me
just,
about the Holocaust.
Yeah, it's just lifting up the whole thing.
Thank you.
There is another.
Hi, thank you for this beautiful film. I actually have two questions. I'm very curious about your approach to working with body and trauma. Is it intuitive, or do you follow some kind of school, some kind of methods? And the second question is about Emese. I was wondering what her motivation was to take part in this project, and what impact it had on her, because she had to take a lot, I imagine, and I'm not sure if she maybe was expecting this, if she could handle this. I'd be curious to know more. Thank you.
I don't follow any recipe when I work on a piece, so I don't have a special method. More a thinking, a way of thinking, what is always a bit different in different projects. And actually we really started, so one idea comes from another idea, you know, that we started with very simple things, as you saw that how was your movement aesthetic when you were young, Eva? And then she showed a lot, showed or explained, and Emese was trying to redo. So somehow we went back, very organic, how she was, what is movement, what is dance for her, you know, what is the aesthetic. And also then it was very funny when Emese, I asked Emese that let's dance in her style for Eva. Very funny. It was in the 3 hours version, but then we had to cut. So because it's so funny to see, you know, it's so different. And then also exercises how can they communicate through dance. But you know, like little small tasks. And then from this on, everybody shows something from herself. And then an idea comes to my mind. And then another task comes. So I don't follow any method, I follow more the natural way of what's happening.
I will take your question and I will be
There was a second question.
Yeah,
but
for
maybe
Emese.
because we have to close, so maybe you can give your question.
No, I said the other.
Yeah, I know Emese, about Emese, and Emese is a very sensitive and very curious dancer. She likes to go to the area where she never was. So she was from the very first moment very much interested in taking part and getting to know an old woman. It's very funny. Emese always tells that in her diary it's always written that rehearsal with the old woman, and then after, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, rehearsal with Eva, because she was not an old woman for her anymore. So that was clear that she wants to do this, and I think they are really good friends. It's not only about the performance. Emese goes to Eva to see her and to tell her life, about her life. So they talk, they are friends. What is the impact? A friendship, I don't know. This is, I think, the most beautiful thing you can get from of a work.
I wanted to share something because there's so often the word trauma, but I think for me the film was very much about playfulness and this and about healing and about because she could in the end walk on a straight line, and so it's like so you could actually physically experience as an audience member of healing of the body, of a healing of the body of a 90-year-old and the healing of the body of Emese as well. So for me, I think it's, I pose a little bit that we are now experience the trauma and it's in us the trauma. No, I think meeting Éva Fahidi made, it's a treasure that I could meet her on the screen. So I get a present that she shares her life with me. So it's, I would never ever, the pain I felt now, or I was touched, I would never compare it in any sense to the trauma she went. I mean, it's like you were close to it, you were watching her telling something, and that you were, I'm watching through a screen, through your eyes, something. So, I mean, I feel privileged that I can witness something, and I will not ever compare it to that the trauma is in my body. Thanks.
So she is still playing this this performance?
Yes, for example, tomorrow night in Budapest.
Oh, yeah. So if you want to see the play, you would have to go to Budapest.
Yeah, actually, Eva is 94 now, and we don't travel anymore with the piece. But we play it and we perform it in Budapest. But it's yeah. But I have a very good news for you as a very last sentence of this discussion, that Emese is pregnant now. So it's, I think it's the most beautiful way to finish this performance because of Emese's pregnancy. So I think
Thank you so much, Réka. Thank you so much for coming and wish you all the best with the rest of the screens.